XRP, XYO, QNT, Dash, and Zebec network major update. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil. Keeping technical analysis short, sheet, blah, 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 blah. All right, so 108,000 is what Bitcoin is needing to hold above. We are getting a little wick off right around that 200 EMA. As previously talked about in the XCN video, if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch it. I kind of explained more about Bitcoin in that. So XRP, dollar cost average as always. Government shutdown, market manipulation with this one or couple candles here, all the way down to $1.77, which is unrealistic because it should have never hit that price point, and immediately pulled right back up within this triangle that we have listed here with this black upward trend line and this downward trend line. We did have another wedge working within there, which when it broke past that, it also crossed over that 200 EMA and had that ridiculous withdrawal, which it's unnecessary. It's just the way the market works. So if you can't handle it, well, you got to find a way to handle it. So we are in consolidation. We are underneath the 200 EMA, but we are building higher lows here. We do want to see this pull up a little bit more, try and create a little bit higher low and get it closer to the 200 EMA. But always dollar cost average your XRP, whether it's up or down. If you missed your entry in at $1.76, we in this channel, I guess maybe I didn't start the channel whenever I was originally talking about this, but back in 2024, we were entering in around 50 cents and below that price point. It's not going to go back to 50 cents, unfortunately. So your opportunity to enter now before it gets too high of a price point, that's kind of what we're looking at. And when we previously talked about this in my other videos, I was saying this is an important range when we might start seeing some movement. Government shutdown kind of obliterated that and made it into the consolidation wedge. But when we can break this black downward trend line, we can start seeing some major upward momentum. And within these two orange lines here of November 22nd to November 30th, there's some more important news where we could start seeing this push out of this downward trend line and start having that upward momentum. Keeping in mind the previous high is right around here at $3.64. Your opportunity to get in at $2.40 is not a bad opportunity. If you enter here and it goes down, buy some more down here. It's going to be going up. If you missed your opportunity to buy Bitcoin at $100, don't miss your opportunity to stack your XRP here at $2.40. It is completely undervalued. We could see this go from $2.40 up to $25 before some pullback and consolidation. And the first real pump, we'd expect some people to start pulling out here around $4.30. Maybe get a little support here around $3.70, maybe a little lower, before pulling back up and start hitting the $15 to $25 mark. From $2.40 to $15, nobody's going to trade you $15 for $2.40, but the market will. And so that's why we trade the market. The market is the best way to make money and lose money. But as long as you are dollar cost averaging your XRP, you're going to make a ridiculous amount of money here in the upcoming years. Give it 10 years, and this is going to be well over $100 guaranteed. Not financial advice in any way, but turning $2.40 into $100, I'd be throwing every single paycheck if I was getting paychecks at XRP. And for the dollar cost averaging, you cannot lose on this. For those of you who want to donate and help me make money as well as yourself, if you are heeding my opinion, not my financial advice, and following the technical analysis, we've been pretty on point. You can't expect things like the government shutdown to just, violate the market the way that it did. But it's the way the game is played, and Trump is throwing out words that can move the market up quickly and down quickly. So it's just kind of what you got to deal with in the cryptocurrency market. But give it a few more days further into this month and potentially into December. I believe we're going to have to wait until next year to start seeing the altcoin season really kick in and kind of peak out. The first 3 months to the first half a year before we start seeing some major retracement. But the government shutting down, we only had this kind of ridiculous retracement with immediate pullback and consolidation. So if you haven't bought XRP, it's highly recommended. It's not financial advice. XYO, my God, everything is just looking brutal. I have a pretty big bag of XYO, even with this downward trend. Not worried about it. We are oversold for the most part. We are starting to build a little bit higher lows here, and we just need this to cross over. Ideally, this black downward trend line is the major resistance, and it does not matter that we are, consolidating downwards. We have this black line right here that is around 0.006 for a little bit of support. The full retracement is potentially around 0.005 or even 0.004 more or less. But once this black downward trend line is broken, as we've seen in Tornado Cash, which I bring up in almost every video because it's one of the coins that is only in profit. Actually, Dash is looking pretty good too. But Tornado Cash, use the reference link for MEXC, get 20 USDT for using that reference link, and you can trade Tornado Cash on MEXC with the lowest trading fee platform. Currently $12.60, all-time high of 459. Enough about that. Moving back over to XYO. Still, downward trend line needs to be broken, but when that's broken, the only real resistance besides this black upward trend line right here is the 200 EMA, and the RSI is oversold, so it really only has one way to go, even if it's consolidating to get over this, which I personally want to see is a consolidation, slow trickle over this downward trend line, which shows it as more of a support, and then pushing up over that 200 EMA, then we could start seeing some major pops. As we've seen back here, whenever we pushed up over the 200 EMA, we had some consolidation downwards, and then once we held right over it, we had about 95% increase before the pullback, and then ultimately a push all the way up here, which is around 633%. Keeping in mind its all-time high is way up here at 8 cents. I know it doesn't seem like a high price point, but if you're buying at fractions of a penny and it goes to 8 cents, it's quite a bit of money to be gathering. Keep in mind the 618 for the actual full retracement is around 0.05. So if you enter in here at 0.006, more or less, we'll just do this up to that 618. That's 700% increase in profit. There are some other coins that may increase more in profit, but also keep in mind 1,000 something, 1,000, almost 200%. And then the next stop, almost 2,000%. The next stop, 3,000%, and 4,000, and potentially 5,000% increase in profit. I believe it can go higher than this 35-cent mark. 5,000% is not a bad ROI from investing less than a penny. So if you haven't bought an XCN, I've been talking about buying it all within this area. Government shutdown destroyed the technical analysis, even though we are correct. Market manipulation, what are you going to do? So break this downward trend line. If you want to wait for that break, that's probably the best opportunity to enter. But you could start dollar cost averaging for this momentum upwards. And bringing in a comparison, DNT is also getting violated day after day. So I don't really have a whole bunch of information on DNT, except for the fact that we are completely oversold in the daily, and it needs to retrace back into this 50, which would essentially be pulling it over this black downward trend line and pushing it between this downward trend line and the 200 EMA. Once we get over the 200 EMA, like we've seen in the past, we had a major pump here with a rejection, and then held up a little bit more, and then major dump. I'm not sure what happened there, but I immediately came back towards the 200 EMA. And once it held over that 200 EMA, the price increase was a roughly 550%. Keeping in mind its all-time high is up here around 25 cents. From a penny to 25 cents, pretty good ROI. And it's in a long consolidation period. Main thing, completely oversold in the RSI. QNT, Aaron, I know this is fucking, pardon my language, brutal for me and you as well. We had our opportunity to exit. We did not. and we had this long downward consolidation. But it's okay. It's okay. Even though we broke underneath this previous low and it doesn't look very good along with the rest of the market, it's working, within this downward channel here. We want to see it build some support, and its next push up could be towards this black downward trend line, which essentially is from this point to here around 24% increase. Ideally, the 618 is here around 50% increase. And this yellow downward trend line right there, that's what we need to be breaking to be pushing it up towards the 124, 125 yet again. Don't sell out at a loss, keeping in mind almost everything is oversold. With stuff being oversold, it means that it's too cheap, it needs to be bought up. And we were buying in around $100 when it was breaking this downward trend line. This one right here, this black one, in this consolidation phase before that push up, rejection, and push up yet again. Even though we are in the red, it is a little bit far away from the 200 EMA, so I expect us to have a start pulling back up when Bitcoin starts to hold up over that 108. Could we see a major flash crash? Anything's possible in crypto, as we've seen with market manipulation. But hold on tight, because the next stop beyond 124 is around 171. And that 124, more or less, to 171, about 40% increase. A lot of people are going to want to get out at that point. But the next real resistance is 280. There's nothing that's really holding it back. Maybe at 226, you might get a little resistance. But 280 and 1,500 is its all-time high. Definitely take the time to diversify when you have the opportunity. But moving on over to Dash. Dash, as I was talking about, previous video, we had that rejection at the 72. I was saying wait for it to hold above the CM Guppy, which it did. It had that push up back towards the 72. I was saying wait for your entry, and from that point, we still had a continuation about another 34%. So Dash just keeps moving up and up and up. The volume is picking up. Keeping this in mind, let's remove CM Guppy, put in the RSI, and then put back in the CM Guppy, because that's what TradingView likes to do. Main thing in RSI is we've been overbought, sorry. Last time we were overbought was right here. Looking on the chart, we were overbought, had that major pullback. So being overbought again, we can expect a major pullback. But if the volume continues to pick up and people start buying while it's getting sold off, if we can get above this previous volume, we can expect that continuation up to 128. Me personally, I'm waiting for an entry still, as I did not have the entry at the $72 mark. I think we could have some potential pullback from this area. Fibonacci retracement. 618 is all the way back down here at $50. I think we may get a little bit of support here at 67, because when we introduce the CM Guppy back into this, the 50% mark is right here around $53. So we've been holding that pretty nicely. It's debatable. We could see a little bit lower than that, as the 200 EMA is way down here. It likes to keep that close, but also we have some indecision in the daily. So we could see a continuation. It's a little bit of a gamble at the moment. Me personally, I'm waiting for a pullback before getting an entry into Dash. Someone had explained to me that the all-time high is like 1,600 or something like that, which is similar to what QNT's all-time high is expecting. But we are overbought within the area, and typically you start seeing some reduction in price whenever you are overbought. You don't see that continuation up to that 128. As we saw back here, we were overbought on the RSI when you're comparing that to the chart. Overbought, and then major pullback. There's the 50, it had a little pop, but then pulled through the CM Guppy back down to the 200 EMA. So that's kind of what I'm expecting for this. We've had a major run with Dash. I think we could have that pullback to the 50, a little bit of a pop to the 72, and then a pullback potentially to the 618 around $49. So I'm still waiting for an entry on Dash, and it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Zebec network. Not the best as well, but still working within this bullish pendant. The potential upside 139% once it breaks that downward trend line, and the 200 EMA is starting to push it down a bit. But I believe we are going to find some support on this black upward trend line. RSI a little oversold, but we could sell off a little bit more, testing this as support yet again before pulling back up over the 200 EMA, and then we would be working within this wedge. Breaking this downward trend line could see that pop along with the rest of the market. Lightlink, new to me, a lot of volume, completely overbought, could see some major retracement, not a whole bunch of data to go off of. Just not much to deal with. Ideally, I'd want to be looking for an entry above this 200 EMA, but then you'd start looking, the real price rejection would be here at 0.018. If you're buying in at that 200 EMA, you're only looking at around 30% before getting some rejection. The next rejection is around 153. I think there are better options that have more data behind it than Lightlink, and so I'm going to kind of bypass that. CTSI, for those of you who got into CTSI, you had that little bit of a pop, government shutdown, complete rejection, almost obliterated. But for the most part, same with everything else, very oversold. A lot of people are trying to wait to buy and enter more in on this, keeping in mind the all-time high is way up here, almost at $2, $1.76. If you're entering in at this 4-cent mark, say you wait a little bit at 5.1, that's still 3,300% potential profit, completely oversold. Last time we were completely oversold back here in July. We had a little bit of push, but consolidation before it was oversold yet again, and then pushed up to overbought, sold off. Right here you can see we had it in the RSI, completely oversold down here, and it kind of bottomed out. The volume's not presented on this chart, but I believe there was very high volume within this area, and it started to bottom out a bit. 200 EMA is very, very weak. And once we get over that, it can move very quickly, as we've seen in the past. Back here, once we held over that 200 EMA, it was about an 800% increase before major reduction. Did not break the CM Guppy, major increase to 1,700%. Tried to break the CM Guppy again, reduced 1,000%, which, is about 50% in the overall market. And then pushed up around 3,400%, major reduction, and then up again, that major percentage. CTSI is not a bad bet. It's very, very low in price, but has some major, major potential. So that's it for this video. Use the reference links below. If you want to trade Tornado Cash, it's one of the few that has been in constant uptrend. And if you use that link, you get 20 USDT for free. And like and subscribe. Good luck. Have fun with it. Nancy Pelosi, Larry Fink, BlackRock, a few keywords that hopefully get me more views. Good luck. Have fun with it. I'll see you on the new one.